So we just finished watching the movie Star Wars, Rise of Skywalker, and everybody that does videos on YouTube, they've seen Star Wars, Rise of Skywalker, and they've been in such a hurry to upload the reviews. And before we can do our review, we need to ponder the movie, think about it, what we're going to say, but we just can't think like on the spot. No, we need some pizza. So we're here, we're going to consume some pizza, and then we're going to be thinking about it while we eat our pizza and talking about the movie. Any words? Any words?
Hello everybody, and welcome to the Platitude Era podcast. Don't worry, this is not a spoiler. This is just purely non-spoiler review of Star Wars. So there was a lot to talk about in this movie, and we just couldn't start reviewing it right after watching it. We had to take a pizza break and rehydrate, recarbohydrate, and now we're ready to talk about the movie. Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. The last one. The saga has come to a conclusion. What is this movie about?
Okay, I like how you said I was going to start it, and then you went right back into... Let me show you how a professional does it. There's been an awakening. Have you felt it? The fandom menace rises, and the Disney shills to meet it. After years of anticipation, the biggest movie of the year has finally been released. But we didn't see that today. Unfortunately, we're watching Cats tomorrow. Today we saw Star Wars, Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Is this movie not the chosen one? Was the one that was prophesized to bring balance to the franchise? Or were the trolls right? And you'll never find a more wretched hive of suck and flimsily cobbled together writing. P. Yusa. Han Mabuki, what did you think of Disney's Lucasfilm Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of McClunky? Now that's how you do it.
That is how you do it.
So, what'd you think of the movie?
Well, after you said all that stuff, it seems like my point doesn't matter anymore because I love this movie. It was awesome.
Yes, it's such a fantastic... No, I didn't much care for it. I think, for me, let me start with the positives. I think J.J. Abrams is a good filmmaker. Like, he's good at shooting a movie. He might not be the best storyteller. And now I'm dipping into the negatives. But, like, I don't know. I think he has a good way with the camera movement and, like, filming actors and getting a good performance out of them. But, like, this movie just feels so heavily like a course correction for me. This just feels like it's so needed to, like, drop everything from The Last Jedi and, like, just steer the ship completely the other direction. That, like, that's what this movie feels like. For me, I'm going to give you an analogy, because that's what I'm good at. So, like, imagine it's 2012, 7 years ago. Avengers just comes out. It's the biggest movie ever. Everybody loves it. And then a couple of months goes by and everyone feels like, it's kind of like the original. I remember the movie with Uma Thurman and Ralph Fiennes and Anthony Hopkins. It feels like that movie a little bit. It's just a rehash. And come to think of it, I think Tony Stark is a bit of a Mary Sue. And then 2 years later or whatever, then Age of Ultron comes out and everyone's like, that wasn't very good. I liked the first one, but now this one's good. I'm not very good. I don't think people like it as much. And then, like, okay, we're going to make, like, a little separate side piece right now. We're going to put different directors. It's not really in the main line, but it's kind of its own side thing. So we're going to get a good an artistic filmmaker and, like, an Edgar Wright. He'll make our side piece movie. But then, like, oh, there's trouble behind the scenes, creative differences, and then he walks off. And then, you know, you get a yes man involved to just completely reshoot the entire movie. And just like, okay, he'll make this movie and we'll try and salvage what we can. And then it comes out to tepid reviews and people aren't as interested. And then people are like, oh fuck, people don't like Marvel anymore. What are we gonna do? So then they're like, okay, well, we still have this other big gigantic movie to make it's a trilogy. We need to we need to make it. So what they have, they're screwed because they're getting diminishing returns on their box office. So they're forced to, like, imagine this in this world, in this hypothetical world, they're forced to cobble together Infinity War and Endgame and mash them together into a quickly, fast-paced movie that completely undoes everything Age of Ultron does. And it's like, hey, remember that first Avengers? You like that first Avengers? That's what this movie is, right? And even though this villain didn't really have anything to do with that first movie or the second movie, he's in it now, huh? Pretty cool, right? Thank you. Applause, applause. We'll take our millions of dollars. Oh, nobody likes this? Well, we're going to take a break after this one. Enjoy the shows, though. That's what I felt in this alternate universe.
I kind of felt the same way, too, that you were saying that they were trying to course correct the ship. And that stuff you said, yes, J.J. Abrams is a brilliant director. He knows how to frame shots. He knows how to hit those notes that people like. Pretty much J.J. Abrams is that rock band you love. Mm-hmm. Or maybe he's that disc jockey from the radio station that plays the hits. He knows how to translate hits onto the film. So when you're watching a movie, you get excited. Because I was excited. There was a lot of cheering. And as far as story, there wasn't much story. It took a back end. And from what I can see from this movie, watching it, it looks like originally Disney was going to give J.J. Abrams his own trilogy. He was going to tell a 3-part movie. But Disney really wanted that cash grab. And they said, no, let's bring in guest directors. That way we can turn them out faster. Because you have the first one, The Force Awakens, which is introducing you to your favorite characters, bring you back to the universe. Then you have The Last Jedi, which stands out like a what is that called, that saying? It stands out like a sore thumb. Mm-hmm. And then you have this movie, The Rise of Skywalker. And this movie, at times I was watching it, and it felt like I was watching the second movie after Force Awakens. And then there was other times where it's like, oh, they threw this in together because they realized, oh, this is the third movie. It was supposed to be the second movie, but now I have to make the third movie. I don't have an idea what to do for the third movie. So I'm going to take my script from my second movie. I'm J.J. Abrams. I take my second movie script. I do some rewrites just to conclude it, just to mesh together the third movie, the idea I had for the third. It's a jumble. It's a mess. But this movie feels like it was supposed to be the second movie, and they combined it with the script for the third movie.
So you're going hypocrite on your original statement when you said, I love this movie.
No, I really love this movie because J.J. Abrams hit all those beats, those things that got you popping and cheering. I mean, I wanted to cheer at all those beats, but at the movie theater I was in, the people just weren't into it. They're like, no, this is a movie and it's beneath me to cheer and watch a movie like if it's a rock show.
Yeah, that's what I was saying to you before, that like, you can't go to a bougie movie theater where they have reclining seats because people are too in a laid-back mode. They're like, entertain me. I can't be on the edge of my seat. I'm too back. Or if you go to like a shitty discount movie, you're literally forced to be on the edge of your seat because they cram so many seats together, there's no actual seat. So it's just you're literally this. So when I saw Endgame at like the blue collar movie theater, everyone's jumping out of their seat and they're cheering, they're crying, they're emotional. I see Endgame at like the bougie theater and everyone's like, I picked up the hammer. Good for him. Exactly. And that's what this feels like in this one too. Lando's back. I missed him.
Exactly.
Oh, thank you.
No, for your, you don't have to pantomime somebody drinking a soda when you actually have a soda.
I'm fine, thank you. Anyways, we died off track. What were we talking about? Star Wars. I loved cats.
Yeah, I really wanted to cheer, but everyone in my theater was like, no, it's beneath me. And if you've seen the trailers for Star Wars movies, this isn't really a spoiler because it's in the trailer, and you're expected of this because they're bringing back all the characters. So the one character that was, are there any more characters left that they could have brought in? Because I don't want to say, they brought in Lando and they're like, no, when you said they brought back a character, I was thinking a different person. So they brought back Lando, and every line of dialogue that Lando had, you told me this during the final season of Game of Thrones, that when they were releasing those episodes, it was like, we're going to film it in a way that it's for a viewing party. A lot of, like that dialogue that gets people cheering or posing. So when they introduced Lando in this movie, you know, he poses or he says dialogue as if you're in a viewing party and you want to cheer. You're like, oh my God, yeah, that.
So a lot of initial reviews are like, this leans heavily into the fan service. And at first, like, the first half for me, other than the Lando scene, like the first half of the movie doesn't have a ton of that. It's just kind of like doing its own thing. It's kind of just going because it's kind of like having to ignore everything The Last Jedi did. And then Lando comes in and it's like, yeah, I remember Lando. It's not obnoxious because it's just this one guy coming in. But then they're like, oh, it's not spoiler, I'll keep it vague, but it's like, oh, we have to go to this place to find this thing. And they're like, oh, they're going back to this place. This place from the old movies. Now we got to go to this place. And then they do go to this place. And then here's this character, and then here's this old thing from the old movies, and it's like everything is compounding together. Like, oh, here's this old stuff. Let's put all this old stuff together. You guys love Star Wars, right? Here's more Star Wars, but it's just like so bogged down with so much stuff that like I don't really walk away with anything. You know, it's just like I kind of wish you just stuck with like. I'll give Force Awakens a pass because you had to reintroduce everybody for a new generation, even though Star Wars is ubiquitous and is eternal and everybody knows everything about it. But the prequels left a sour taste in people's mouth, and people were like, reintroduce me to the franchise. So Force Awakens comes out and it's like, okay, I'll give it a pass. Last Jedi, the ending is so, it leaves you nowhere. And then this movie comes in, I enjoy this new core, but then like C-3PO has a ton of stuff to do. For some reason, I guess Anthony Daniels really wanted to add like another story to his house or something. So, I don't know, because like he hasn't been in that. He was really in the side in the other movies. He was like barely in them, and then I was like, why is there so much of him? It's like, oh, because they're kind of rewriting history. Like, oh yeah, he goes on all these adventures just like he did with the last guys. He's with these guys too. We're all buddies. So then that line that comes up that I always scoff at, it's like, I'm taking one last look at my friends. Like, you didn't spend any time with these people. Now you're spending way too much time with these people. Like, oh, I guess. Yeah, he's friends with these people.
This movie really felt like it belonged in the original trilogy, episode 4, 5, and 6, in the sense that you had these background characters and they were real. They were either puppets, people in costumes, but they were not CG like the earlier prequel, like the George Lucas prequel, episode 1, 2, and 3, where it's like, oh, I got these background characters, I'm gonna make them CG. So this one, I really appreciated that, how it took me back to the original prequel.
Yeah, another thing on the pro list is, you know, there's an effort to like using practical effects, practical sets, just like kind of keeping it as traditional filmmaking as possible and not like leaning too heavily onto CG.
And another thing I'm glad that you brought up was how in the story, without spoilers, it's we got to go to this planet and we got to go to this other planet. And I'm wondering if that's really what Star Wars is about, or if J.J. Abrams was trying to send a film school message to Rian Johnson, from the director of The Last Jedi, how he says, no, when they have to go to other planets, it has to have a purpose. So in The Last Jedi, they go to a casino planet, it doesn't serve a purpose. In this one, they have to go through a couple other planets to get...
The only reason they go to planets is to forward the plot. You know, it's like, oh, this thing's on this planet, this thing's on this planet. And it's constant movement. For like, there's never, other than like when they go to the Resistance base, which is just like, oh, we're gonna take a little bit of a break because this is the only real part we can insert Leia. I want to say that the Leia scenes feel completely forced. Like every time she's on screen, she only ever makes a face or has like 2 or 3 words to say, and that's it. Like it almost feels pointless to have her in the movie. But like you needed her because, you know, she's an important character, but you didn't know how to use her because, I mean, you didn't want to, I guess, dishonor her legacy by just putting a CG face on someone. But then again, you still have like a body double that Rey's hugging that's clearly, you know, so I don't know what's what, but I mean, for me it was noticeable that they just like cobbled together old footage or whatever. Like when you notice that like she says something and then, or like someone comes up with like a specific key phrase or word, and then she responds with something that's like, oh, BB-8, I don't trust you. And then she comes back with, no, don't, like, always trust a droid. And like, this jigsaw puzzle piece was already here. And then you got the scissors and cut it out to fit this piece. That's what it felt like with Leia.
What else is there to say? Anything else you want to add? I'm ready to listen to your recommendation unless you want to add one more thing. I really don't want to spoil anything else for the people.
No, I mean, as far as my recommendation is concerned, if you're a general movie-going fan of Star Wars and you don't care, about, you know, all the story and stuff. I think it'll be a fun enough ride. It'll be Star Tours with minus the $100 ticket. But if you hated The Last Jedi or this new iteration of Star Wars, you'll probably be fine with the sour grapes, knowing this movie isn't as good as it could have been or should be. And if you're like knowledgeable about the fact that, like, I don't want to put the blame game on Rian Johnson. I mean, he did the best he could, I guess, but because he was kind of given free rein, he just, you know, tore the whole foundation down, and just everyone had to like start from scratch. So it's kind of his fault, but I mean, there wasn't a complete and total structure with the franchise. So like, if you knew all the stuff going in, like that they had to undo everything from the last movie, and this very clearly, if you know that, very clearly feels like they're trying to like they're hitting Command Z or Command Control Z or whatever. Feels very heavily like that. So if you know that, you can tell Palpatine doesn't exist. Like, he doesn't. It feels forced. Everything feels forced in this movie. And I was using the Force.
Oh.
I was using my Jedi mind trick to show to unlock in your head how forced this movie was.
So, you know, we got into our recommendations, but we forgot to mention our friends at Rotten Tomatoes. The critics gave this movie a 57% score. Audience gave it an 86%. What's my recommendation for this? Hey guys, it's Star Wars. Don't miss it. Whether you like Star Wars, you gotta see it and support it. Don't miss it. Whether you hate Star Wars, you gotta see it, you know, just so you could crap on it, and you're not the only one.
Yeah, but you don't want to pay for it. So I'm guessing if you hate Star Wars, you'll probably torrent it.
No, don't do that. Angry pay. You know, usually you waste your money on other things. Why not waste it on this? I mean, just don't miss it. What I liked about this movie was that it felt like George Lucas planted some seeds in when the original Return of the Jedi came out. He planted a couple seeds, and then now in 2019, those seeds have bloomed and it's time to harvest. That's what this movie kind of felt like. I liked that it was the Poe show. Poe is my favorite character from the new trilogy, and I like that he had a bigger role in this, and it was a lot of fun watching the Poe and Finn bromance bloom.
Yeah, going back, like when I said like, oh, I like the original, like the core of this team, I do like them, but like sometimes like Poe and Rey don't really work. I mean, like, I guess they don't have enough screen time together, or that's kind of the fault with The Last Jedi, is you didn't put them together. Like, because like when you think of Luke, Han, and Leia, they're like, oh, they're so like closely interweaved together. Like, they're like, oh, you can put them all, you can mix them up together. They're a nice, lovely melting pot. But you get like Finn and Poe work together, and then Finn and Rey work together, but Poe and Rey don't really meld together. So then it's like kind of this, it doesn't completely and fully link. I like all these characters, they don't fully mesh together. That's probably why they keep introducing new characters like Finn and Rose, Finn and new girl. Let's put new droid in. It's just like, it's different like modulations of like character, you know, chemistry together, and a little bit of water and oil sometimes.
Yeah, because the original core, Han, Leia, and Luke, they made sense because Luke, obviously, he's a center character where he'll either tip the scale one way, Leia, or the other way, Han. Because Leia and Han, they have their viewpoints, and then Luke would be the decision maker. And in this one, I see what you mean, how Poe and Rey didn't blend well, just because it seems like they were too much the same character. They were very headstrong, and they had their idea of what the rebellion should be. So you're pretty much watching two of the same thing.
You could make an argument though that Han and Leia were kind of both headstrong, but you know, they won't, maybe because they wound up schmoozing together or whatever. But I don't know. Maybe that's the only way you can get characters to work together, is if they fall in love. That's the only reason.
And so Disney, just so you know, this movie was a nice send-off. It's time for a Star Wars break. Please don't rush to make another movie. If this movie makes a lot of money, it's only because we are expecting this to be the last Star Wars movie for a while, so we're consuming this as a way to hibernate while we wait for another Star Wars movie that we're hoping will come out in, what, 5 years? 10 years?
I think they're waiting 3 years. I think we're getting another one in 3 years.
Well-
which I kind of feel like this movie should have had an extra year, just kind of iron out the kinks.
Yeah, you're right. But the problem was that they had to undo everything from The Last Jedi, so...
It'll take a year. The original trilogy were 3 years, 77, 80, 83. This one, 15, 17, 19. I think this could have benefited from the extra year apart between movies.
Well, in the last video I talked about how they made 3 movies. In 4 years, they made 3 movies, 2 side movies, and the TV show. So that was way too much Star Wars content in 4 years.
But I feel like the Mandalorian is kind of it's like the new breed, and this is kind of the old. It's like, okay, well, this is like the old stuff. We're hunkering down here. We're making this movie, and then we'll let off the gas, and then we're letting this new thing take over. Versus, versus like just the original trilogy. It's like we're not beholden really to stockholders. We'll just make a movie when we make a movie. Versus this, we got to push out Star Wars, biggest franchise in the universe, $1 billion, stockholders. So I don't know.
Well, that's the problem they had. They pushed it out, and they had the big debacle of The Last Jedi. So this time, just take a break. If you're going to make another trilogy, make sure you have the story first before you start filming. If you have a standalone movie, make sure it's good enough. But first, we need a really long break from Star Wars because it's too much Star Wars content. And for whatever money this movie makes, consider yourself lucky. And if you try to rush another Star Wars movie, you're just going to tarnish the brand so much it will not be able to recover. We also have to congratulate J.J. Abrams because this is the first project he ever made, movie or TV show or anything, where after it's over, there are no more questions. There's not like, hey, J.J. Abrams, you forgot to answer these questions. Everything just, it's over.
Well, The Last Jedi killed everything. So, you just reintroduce everything. I mean, there's only one major question, I guess, who's raised parents, but then Last Jedi kind of... Whatever. Doesn't matter. None of it matters. Kill the past. Or let the past die, kill it if you have to.
Good reference to 13 Reasons Why, Season 3.
No, I was referencing The Last Jedi. But yeah, I think the takeaway from this movie is you have to vote with your wallets. Like, it's Disney needs to learn its lesson. Don't go and see this movie. I'm not giving Disney any more money. If you want to support good art, watch like a good show like The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. That's as far as I'm concerned. That way, it'll hurt Disney in their wallets. Show it to them. That'll learn them for ruining Star Wars.
All right, everybody, we just walked out of the movie theater. We just ate some pizza, and we did this review. Thank you for watching. Sorry, but we're losing light, and we got to cut the review here. We wish you could talk all day about the movie, but Platitude Era, subscribe, like, all that other gibberish that everybody says. We enjoy making content, so you enjoy watching it. I don't know how to sign off. Help me.
Am I your only hope?
Yes.
Let me think of a Luke thing said. That's not how the Force works. Han said that. The Jedi are vanity, the Force something. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper.
And be excellent to each other. Bye!